Okay, so you want to own a gym. Walk into one at 5 in the morning and it's already half full. Rows of people on treadmills before sunrise, a line for the squat rack, someone wiping down a bench between sets. You watch that and think, people are paying for this before the sun comes up. This has to be one of the easiest businesses in America to run. Here's the question that scene never answers. If gym ownership is this straightforward, why did New York sports clubs, one of the most recognizable fitness brands on the East Coast, with roughly 600,000 members across nearly 200 locations, file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in September of 2020, listing liabilities between $500 million and $1 billion? Why did its parent company end up settling a lawsuit 5 years later, in 2025, for nearly $4 million in restitution to members it had kept charging while the doors were locked? The 5 a.m. crowd isn't lying to you, but it isn't telling you the whole story either. A gym isn't really selling access to equipment. It's running a subscription business that happens to have a squat rack in it. And understanding that distinction is the only way to understand how this industry actually makes money, and how it quietly stops making money without anyone noticing until the debt comes due. Start with what you're actually buying into, because a gym isn't one business. It's several different businesses wearing the same spandex. At the bottom, you've got the high-volume budget chains. $10 to $30 a month, minimal staff, a building the size of a supermarket. A model that only works if thousands of people sign up and most of them barely show up. In the middle sits the traditional full-service gym. Weight floor, cardio deck, group classes, dues somewhere between $40 and $70 a month. Above that, boutique studios built around one format: cycling, HIIT, Pilates, charging $50 to $150 a month for a tighter, more curated experience. And at the very top, the premium clubs, pools, spas, co-working lounges, charging anywhere from $200 to $600 a month and selling a lifestyle more than a workout. Every one of those tiers is really the same underlying bet, made differently. Do you make your money from a huge number of people paying a little, or a small number of people paying a lot? That single choice determines almost every other number in the business. Now the part first-time owners consistently underestimate: the build-out. A commercial lease alone runs $45,000 to $150,000 a year, depending on market, and landlords routinely want several months up front before you've touched a wall. Renovation and interior build-out. Flooring rated for dropped weights, locker rooms, proper drainage, adds another $30,000 to $105,000. Equipment is where the range explodes. A lean boutique studio might get by on $10,000 to $40,000 in gear. A full commercial floor with a real strength section and enough cardio machines to survive a Monday evening rush can run $500,000 to over $1 million once you're done. A single large format club can spend more than $1 million on cardio and strength equipment alone before it ever opens its doors. There's a cost category almost nobody prices correctly on the first attempt: air. Packing a room full of people generating heat and sweat for hours at a stretch isn't something a standard retail HVAC system was built to handle. Getting the ventilation right for a real strength and cardio floor is its own line item, often tens of thousands of dollars on top of everything else, and it's invisible until a health inspector or an angry member notices the air quality on a packed Tuesday evening. Add licensing, insurance, a marketing push, and 3 to 6 months of operating capital sitting in reserve, because almost no gym breaks even in its first 6 months, and a genuinely mid-sized independent gym can require anywhere from $200,000 to well over $1 million before a single membership is sold. Franchising changes the math without necessarily making it easier. A recognizable brand can mean a built-in waiting list of members before you even open. Some boutique franchises report new locations opening with wait lists over 200 people deep. But that brand comes at a price. Franchise fees commonly run $50,000 to $100,000, on top of 5 to 8% of gross revenue paid back every month, forever, plus a marketing contribution on top of that. In a strong market with real brand pull, that trade is worth it. In a market where nobody's heard of the brand, you're paying a permanent royalty for very little. Now for the part of this business that explains almost everything else, the membership itself. Specifically, who the ideal member actually is. Picture two people who sign up on the same day. One shows up 3 times a week, every week, for a year. The other comes twice in January, feels good about the decision, and never returns, while the card keeps getting charged automatically every month. Ask yourself honestly, which of those two is more profitable for the gym? And the uncomfortable answer is the second one. The frequent member uses hot water, wears down equipment, and takes up floor space during exactly the hours the gym is most crowded. The member who vanished in February costs almost nothing to keep on the books, while their payment keeps landing in the account like clockwork. This isn't a fringe case. Industry retention data puts average annual churn at roughly 29%, meaning close to a third of the membership base cancels every single year. And that's actually an improvement on where the industry sat a decade ago. For a mid-sized gym with 2,000 members paying an average of $50 a month, a churn rate in that range translates into roughly $240,000 in lost annual revenue if nothing is done to replace it. Acquiring a brand new member costs $60 to $120 in marketing spend. Retaining an existing one costs a fraction of that, which is exactly why gyms are structurally engineered to make joining effortless and canceling anything but. That engineering shows up physically, not just contractually. A gym with several thousand members could never legally or physically fit even a fraction of them on the floor at once. Fire code alone forbids it. The business isn't built around everyone showing up. It's built around the statistical certainty that most people won't, which is precisely why a facility sized for a few hundred simultaneous guests can profitably sell memberships to thousands. A gym genuinely full of daily regulars would need a bigger building, more equipment, and higher utility bills to serve the exact same paying population, which is the opposite of what makes this business work. Some of that stickiness is deliberate design, not accident. Clean sightlines and simple layouts lower the intimidation a new member feels on their first visit, which keeps them coming back just long enough for the habit to either take or quietly fade. Lighting, music tempo, even where the mirrors go, all of it nudges toward the same outcome: staying emotionally attached to a membership whether or not the person is actually using it week to week. It also shows up in the exit door. Many membership contracts still require written cancellation. Not an app tap, not a phone call. Sometimes with 30 to 60 days of advance notice, guaranteeing at least one more billing cycle after someone has already decided to leave. Regulators have taken notice. The Federal Trade Commission attempted to implement a national click-to-cancel rule in 2024, requiring that ending a subscription be as easy as starting one. A federal appeals court struck the rule down on procedural grounds in the summer of 2025, and the agency has been rebuilding its case since. If a business's survival depended on members who were happy to be there, it wouldn't need friction on the way out. There's a smaller, stranger hidden cost too, one that has nothing to do with treadmills: music. Any commercial space playing background music for customers is legally required to carry public performance licensing, typically through more than one licensing organization at once, running roughly $1,000 to $4,000 a year combined for a single location. Skip it, and you're not risking a slap on the wrist. U.S. copyright law allows statutory damages per song that can run into the tens of thousands of dollars for willful infringement. A gym owner who assumes a personal streaming account covers the sound system has taken on legal exposure worth far more than the license would have cost. Which brings us back to Town Sports International, the parent company of New York sports clubs, Boston sports clubs, and several regional brands. The company had been carrying mounting debt well before the pandemic, a roughly $200 million loan coming due, an acquisition deal that had already fallen through. When lockdowns closed 95% of its clubs in March of 2020, the company kept billing members anyway, which triggered legal action from multiple state attorneys general. By September, with liquidity gone and creditors circling, Town Sports filed Chapter 11, listing liabilities between $500 million and $1 billion, most of it unpaid rent. The gyms themselves weren't the problem. the debt structure sitting on top of them was. It took until 2025 for a Massachusetts court to order the company's former leadership to pay millions in restitution for the billing practices that made the collapse worse. So how does a gym actually make money, mechanically, once you strip away the noise? Take a facility with $30,000 a month in fixed costs, rent, payroll, equipment financing, utilities, insurance, charging an average of $85 a month per member. That gym needs somewhere around 350 paying members just to break even. Below that line, it loses money every month. Above it, additional members are close to pure profit, because the marginal cost of a member who barely shows up is close to zero. Getting to that number takes time most first-time owners underprice. 12 to 18 months of accumulating members before crossing into profitability is normal, and every one of those months draws down the reserves set aside before opening. Layer in 29% annual churn, and a gym with 500 members effectively has to replace close to 150 of them every year just to stand still. The second real lever most owners eventually pull is personal training. One trainer working strictly one-on-one at roughly $80 a session, capped at a sane weekly workload, tops out around $100,000 a year. A hard ceiling because there are only so many hours in a day. Small group formats break that ceiling. 4 clients paying $40 each for the same hour brings in more total revenue than one client paying $80, even after the gym pays the trainer a commission. It's why so many facilities have shifted towards small group coaching rather than pure solo sessions. Put it all together across a full year, and you get 2 very different versions of this business. In the version that works, you've hit your break-even membership count on schedule, kept churn on the low end of normal, and built a real personal training program alongside the base membership. A mid-sized independent gym running that way can generate somewhere between $500,000 and $1.5 million a year, with a net margin in the low double digits, translating to an owner take-home somewhere in the range of $70,000 to $180,000. That's a genuinely solid outcome for the capital and hours involved, and it's the version most people picture when they decide to open a gym in the first place. In the version that doesn't, nothing dramatic happens. Churn drifts to the high end of normal instead of the low end. A cheaper competitor opens 2 miles away and pulls off the price-sensitive members with an introductory rate you can't match without bleeding margin. Equipment starts breaking a little more often than budgeted, adding another $1,000 or $2,000 a month to overhead that wasn't in the original plan. None of it makes the news. None of it looks like a crisis from the parking lot. It just quietly turns a comfortable double-digit margin into a single-digit one, or into an outright loss during a slow season, while the building outside still looks reasonably full most evenings, right up until the debt payment comes due and the numbers on the spreadsheet don't match the crowd on the floor. That gap between the 2 scenarios, often well over $100,000 in a single year for a single mid-sized gym, is the entire business. It's also the same gap that sat underneath Town Sports International for years before anyone outside the company noticed. Full clubs, 600,000 members, and a balance sheet that couldn't survive one bad year. So if you're thinking about opening a gym, the treadmills at 5 in the morning were never the real business. The real business was always the ones who stopped showing up, and whether you built a company sturdy enough to survive them.